It's the final homestand for the St. Louis Cardinals in 2025, and the McGreevy train rolls on 3-0 as the Cardinals record their 12th shutout victory of the season. Welcome to STL Sports Central Cards Postgame. He's Ethan Hannaford. I'm Luke Slabaugh. Ethan, what was your main takeaway tonight in this 3-0 win over the Cincinnati Reds?
Well, first off, I'm glad to be back on. It's hard for it to not be Michael McGreevy, right? I mean, what a stellar outing for the McGreevy train, as you said. I like that. I like that a lot. 7 innings, 3 hits of shutout ball, walked 3, struck out 6. I think that's now 2 of his. I think his last 2 home outings, he struck out 6 and 7 now, higher in his career totals. Encouraging sign. And Jeremy says it right here. McGreevy was lights out tonight. And you're going to have nights where it's not pretty and he's going to get hit around a lot. He's a young pitcher. He's been a full-time starting pitcher in the majors now for what? 2.5 months? I don't even think we're at 3 months yet. But it's nights like these that get you excited for what he can be. And that is, I think, a legitimate heart of the rotation piece. He's going to be more of a pitch to contact guy, but I think he's shown some really encouraging signs. And I think tonight he showed a lot as well. The fastball was zipping, was still looking good in later innings. Struck out the side in the 7th inning and hit 94 multiple times in that inning. The curveball looked sharp tonight as well. Overall, I thought this was a very encouraging outing from Michael McGreevy. And I heard a stat also that Chip and Brad threw out there at the end of the game where his 10th win as a Cardinal in his first 19 games ties Dizzy Dean's brother, Daffy, Paul Dean. How about that? So rare company, very impressive stuff for Michael McGreevy. And I think when you look at the big picture of 2025, Michael McGreevy and what you've been able to see from him in limited sample size has to be considered one of the positive pieces.
And speaking of positive pieces, baseball is a game of partnerships. Looking forward to Michael McGreevy and his battery mates in the future. And we got to give a shout out to one of our partners here, and I'm talking about Home Bank. Cards Central Postgame brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, it's about those relationships, right, guys and gals? And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank, member FDIC, more than a bank, they're your business partner. And that's myhomebank.bank. Stay tuned because later in this block, we're going to go through the money moment of the game presented by Home Bank. And of course, this starts with the Cardinals offense. Ethan Hannaford able to give some run support to Michael McGreevy there off the top. Against left-hander Andrew Abbott, Brendan Donovan getting things started. Your takeaways from the Cardinals' first inning and being able to play ABC baseball and eke across a run.
Yeah, it's refreshing, I'll say, to have Nolan Arenado back in the lineup. I know that the bat has not been there, but there is a presence that he carries even in the midst of his struggles this year. A veteran leadership, I would say as well, that it's good to have him back in the lineup. And through these 2 games, I think he's looked comfortable. He's looked good at the plate. We know yesterday went 2 for 4. And he ends up with the sacrifice fly to send in Donovan in the first inning. That gave the Cardinals an early lead. They wouldn't look back from there. 8 hits tonight in total. You're able to score 3 runs. Sometimes it seems like that between 3 runs scored, between 4 runs scored, that team tends to be, it feels like a huge, like in between, like 3 most nights it doesn't feel like is enough. 4 on most nights should be enough. And fortunately, Michael McGreevy in the bullpen was shut down tonight. They were lights out. But you loved the start that you got from the offense. It just feels right. Brendan Donovan being at the top and getting this version of Brendan Donovan where he's able to play healthy and he's not banged up. And as a result, he just looks more comfortable at the plate. looked comfortable on that leadoff double to start off the game, and Ivan Herrera kept things going when he was able to single to right field, put runners at the corner. And, all you have to do is say, Nolan, don't strike out. And Nolan Arenado doesn't strike out a lot, did his job, and gave the Cardinals an early lead.
You got to also love the 9-pitch at bat worked by Thomas Saggese, able to take a curveball and hit it to right center field. This might be a hot take, but Saggese deserves this long look he's getting right now with Mason Wynn shut down for the year. And he figures to be integral in some way in 2026. No word on how president of baseball ops Chaim Bloom will deal with the glut of position players, particularly on the left side of the infield. However, with someone who has as much club control as Saggese does and able to show the ability to work counts and hit for some pop, there's something here. He's got a little bit of Matt Carpenter in him. We've talked about maybe a little bit of maybe Bo Hart might be stretching it a little bit. I know that's an older reference, but he seems to play with some grit and some passion that is endearing himself to fans.
Yeah, silently, like very under the radar, putting together a respectable campaign in 2025. And the reason I say it's under the wire is because he was never at really any point come this year a guy that you were looking at and saying, yeah, he's a guy that I'm going to be focusing on getting runway for. It was more so a situation where if it made sense and there was opportunities for him, if there was an injury and he could get some time up here consistently, then go for it. Why not? And there were times when it looked really rough. The first stretch that he had this year up with the team looked really good. And then he got, I think he got sent. I don't remember if he got sent down or if he went down with injury. Forgive me for not recalling. But he came back and he didn't look like the same player. And it took him a little while to work through some of those adjustments. And it's taken a little bit of time, but I think it's looked pretty good. I mean, he's not going to be a power guy. Jay saying, Saggese first homer since April, please stop. He's a backup. You're right. He's not a power guy. That's okay. He never advertised as that. This is a contact guy that ideally, right, is going to be able to be a respectable bench piece. That's what I look at Thomas Saggese and I see. But he's taken advantage of the time that he's been up here. Yes. Is it fully what you want by year's end for a, year 5 player? No. But that's not what Thomas Saggese is. In total right now, he's batting .263, which is a lot higher than a lot of the guys on this Cardinals roster. The on-base percentage, you prefer for that to be a little higher. It's at .302 right now, and the OPS is pretty low. It's below .650 at this point. But you hope that the more time that he's up here, he's going to be able to contribute in that spot. And I think someone that I could see him being relatively similar to as far as his impact level on this team is a Daniel Descalso or a Pete Kozma. He doesn't have the glove that either of those two guys had, although I think he's decent. He's not going to play a lot of shortstop. He's going to be more of a second base guy for you, maybe third if you need him as well. But I could very much so seeing him being a guy that comes off the bench and can put together an at-bat when needed. This guy had a high ceiling going through the minor leagues, both in the Texas organization and last year as well with the Cardinals in Memphis. So, yes, and Jay, I understand your comments saying, why are we talking about him? But simultaneously, I think he is a guy that down the road, because of the control, like you mentioned, Luke, it's a guy that you could see sticking around for a few years. And eventually, once the Cardinals do get to being a team that's in the mix, him having a spot as a bench guy, a utility guy, because of his ability to play in multiple positions and to work in at bat.
The reason that I bring up Saggese, one, I am a Thomas Saggese truther, one Italian to another. And the second is the plate approach the last month or so has been very refreshing. He's letting the ball travel. He's not getting fooled by off-speed stuff. Like the hit tool is something that could develop into above average at the major league level. And if you look to contend, he is a piece that could play a competitive role. So I'll take you to the play of the game, our money moment of the game, and we'll pull up the graphic after I talk about this. Bottom of the third, 2 outs. Alec Burleson able to get a base hit off of Andrew Abbott through the right side. Thomas Sajaci, full count, changeup hanging, ropes it into the left field bullpen for his second home run of the season, makes it 3-0, 391 the tape measure. His first home run since April 6th in Boston, that ill-fated 18-7 game. He was pinch hitting for Nolan Arenado in the ninth inning in the cleanup spot. 3-run bomb over the Green Monster in Fenway. So his second home run of the season, and yes, only 2 home runs. If you're looking at traditional stats, maybe Thomas Sajaci isn't the player for you. However, if you're watching these games and keying in on how he's approaching opposing pitchers, there's a lot to like here. And so with that, that is our home bank money moment of the game. The money moment of the game is brought to you by Home Bank, the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Missouri, get yourselves ready because DraftKings is coming. It's a coming, all right. The wait's almost over. It's America's top-rated sportsbook app, and it will come to the Show Me State, and when it does, you'll want to have signed up. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1. Download now and place a $5 bet when DK Sportsbook goes live. It brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions, safe, secure, and with fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st. That's code STL SPORTS in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 2100 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Raking in the money. The team behind our team. And so, King's Echo giving me the love as he always does here. I think that there's something that is refreshing about seeing Nolan Arenado back playing the hot corner. A couple of good plays tonight, one to end the game, a good 5-3 double play off the bat of Tyler Stevenson when McGreevy was in some trouble. The mind is willing. The body at the plate might have been a little bit weaker. However, I was talking with Shafe last night on the postgame. He said that had Nolan stayed healthy and not missed 40 games, probably would have gotten his vote for Gold Glove. What say you, Ethan Hannaford?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the kind of bounce back year that Arenado has had at the hot corner when healthy. It's been very encouraging. There were some clear steps taken back in 2024, and he has reverted to his former self. Now, I'll say this, although he has been very good at third base, I would not say he is the prime Nolan Arenado defensively that we saw once upon a time when we would ooh and ah at the plays that he would make. He's had a couple of those moments this year, but it's still not the Colorado Rockies defensive Nolan Arenado or even the 2021-2022 defensive Nolan Arenado. But it is encouraging to see his gloves still be there. The more that works for Nolan Arenado, the more appealing it could be for a team to be open to taking on that contract or any piece of that contract in Nolan Arenado. So yes, if he was healthy, I would agree. The entire year, I'd agree. This is a guy that could have very well won a Gold Glove. Unfortunately, the issues with the pinky lead to the issues with the shoulder, and you blink your eyes, and all of a sudden, it's been a month and a half since Nato has been with the club. But I mean, it's not like it's taken much to see the impact that he has defensively. I mean, Nolan Gorman in his time during that stretch, he got the large majority of the time at third base while Arenado was on the injured list. Gorman in large part struggled. Now it had been a small sample size in large part that Gorman had played third base defensively at the major league level prior to this stint. So you give some benefit of the doubt with that. I think he had even started to look more comfortable and improved during his time there. But albeit all considered, he is not Nolan Arenado defensively. And to be quite frank, he will never be Nolan Arenado defensively. That is not a jab at Nolan Gorman. That is a reminder that during his prime, Nolan Arenado was the greatest defensive third baseman in baseball history. You could argue that with a couple of names. Scott Rowland was very good. Mike Schmidt was very good. I would put Nolan Arenado up against either of them. So just things to consider. But yes, I agree. If Nolan Arenado would have been healthy for a full 162, or even if he would have missed half of the time that he did, very good chance we're looking at another Gold Glove in 2025 for Nolan Arenado.
Brooks Robinson also in the conversation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The late Brooks Robinson. I feel like we would have gotten flamed
Probably
had that name not been brought up.
Probably.
Okay, and that's the thing about playing a good defense at the hot corner is that it rubs off in some capacity on some of your fellow infielders, and we saw it tonight. Top of the third, one out there, TJ Friedl hits this squibber to Alec Burleson, deflects off his glove. I don't know if you saw the replay on this, but Brendan Donovan grabs it on the bare hand, relays it to McGreevy, who, to his credit, PFP books it to first base, and it's called safe on the field, which been a well-fought infield single for Friedl. However, Oliver Marmol, the manager, challenges it. It's overturned, and that really does make the difference in preserving the early stages of a shutout. Gavin Lux would double inside the third base bag right afterwards, probably would have scored TJ Friedl. So really good defense there. And then McGreevy helping his own cause. Top of the fifth, a runner on first base, 1-2 count to Ke'Bryan Hayes, hits a curveball back up to McGreevy. He is kind of stutter stepping towards first base, but his shoulders are aligned, throws to Donovan at second, and on to first base, Burleson for the 1-4-3 double play. We can't understate how clutch Michael McGreevy was tonight in the field and on the mound. Ethan Hannaford, this was a well-deserved win for Greaves, and a great punctuation mark on his home splits for the Cardinals in 2025, improves to 7-3, ERA just flirting around 4. How would you evaluate Michael McGreevy's 2025 campaign?
It's funny. I'm going back and I'm just watching this play again because I think that I underestimated just quite how impressive it was. The one that Burleson bobbled and Donovan is able to adjust on the fly and make that play. First off, extremely impressive by Brendan Donovan being able to even get the throw there, but Michael McGreevy also showing off the athleticism. That's a really tough play to make. I mean, PFP is obviously a really important part of the game, but when you're heading towards first base like that with that amount of pace, and then all of a sudden you have to get your feet set, you have to make sure you're watching the play happen, you're trying to step on the bag, and then you have to get in a super athletic stance and make that play like he did. That was pretty entertaining. And, it's even that much more important. It's always important, but it's that much more important when you're a pitch to contact guy. So yeah, really, really nice play there. Overall, when I look at 2025 for Michael McGreevy, encouraged, definitely encouraged by what we saw. Wish I could have seen more. Disappointed in the handling of Michael McGreevy in large part by the front office this year. I think that I probably had a longer leash with McGreevy compared to most. A lot of people were ready for him to be up come April 10th, probably, maybe even earlier than that. But I understood the Cardinals' mindset in that, and this is, they put themselves in this situation. They did not have a lot of depth at the minor league level. What happened this year for St. Louis in their starting rotation was an anomaly. It does not happen very often where you're able to work through an entire season and not have to use, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 starting pitchers in one season. How many different starting pitchers did the Cardinals have throw games this year? 7? Is that it? Was it 7? I can't even think of a 7th. That's how much I'm struggling with this. They did not have to deal with a lot of starting pitching injuries this year. That is a rarity in today's day and age of baseball. With all that to be said, there's no way to predict that that's what's going to happen with your starting pitching. So I understood what they were going for, but it got to the point where, Eric Fetty was an absolute atrocious mess on the mound. I understood they were trying to squeeze any sort of value they could get out of him, but it felt like a train wreck in the handling of that entire situation when you had a guy like Michael McGreevy, when every time that he had came up to pitch, he had proven that he should be up here in the full-time rotation. And it took them way too long to get to that point. It was a pivotal part of the season where the Cardinals were very much so in the mix. And those were several losses looking back on it this year where you're like, man, what could have been? What could have been? So wish I would have seen Michael McGreevy more than we had. But overall, I think that, like the comment earlier said, it said he could be a solid 4. I would take a solid 4. Would I like it to have been a little bit more, or him to? Do I think he has the ability to be a 3? Yeah, I do. But I think 4 is a safe answer there, and I think a good building block for Michael McGreevy in his young career heading into 2026.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And if you're talking about Michael McGreevy and Matthew Liberatore being the bottom of the rotation starters on a contending Cardinals club, tell me who those other 3 starters are, because we need them here. You mentioned the 5 horsemen of the apocalypse that have started most of the games for the Cardinals this season. Eric Fetty being the 6th with 20 starts. Can you name the 7th starter that the Cardinals rolled out this year? Someone
in the chat said it. I'm blanking. Did a reliever start a game? Did a reliever open a game?
Depends on how you view him.
Oh, God. Who am I blanking on? People chat, help me out here. You guys are not doing your job.
He's a very kind man.
Matz. It's Steven Matz. Is it Steven Matz?
It's Steven Matz. That's correct. Yeah.
If
that's the one that gave it away, he's nice. He's a nice guy. They're all nice guys. Got a comment in the chat. Maybe we go down memory lane and we do a tribute to Nolan Arenado here to wrap this up here. 3-0 the final. Michael McGreevy, best start as a Cardinal. Obviously, the story tonight. What was the best season for Nolan Arenado? For me, it is quite obvious. It is 2022. There were murmurings of a co-MVP season between him and Paul Goldschmidt. Goldie chasing the Triple Crown, and Nato worth a 7.2 wins above replacement level per Fangraphs and a 149 weighted runs created plus. That is 49% better than a league average hitter. Walking
good?
at an 8.4% clip. That's his best in a Cardinals uniform. Striking out at an 11.6% clip, his lowest as a Cardinal in a full season. And hitting 293. Yeah, 30 home runs. That was Nolan at his peak. And if he and Goldie had shared that MVP, would have been great. And that's the thing, like, maybe we keep this positive. I had another thought, but how will you remember Nolan Arenado as a Cardinal if this is the final homestand?
I will remember Nolan, not necessarily Nolan Arenado specifically, but more so this tenure of which Nolan Arenado was a Cardinal with what could have been. I loved the way in which John Mozeliak went out, and for a long time, the issue was the lack of star power. That was a huge issue for a good period of time. From the time that Albert Pujols had left, yes, you had Yadier Molina, but it's a different kind of star. You didn't have that guy that was going to go out and hit 40 home runs, right? You didn't have that guy. From the time that Albert Pujols signed in Anaheim to 2018 when they signed Marcell Ozuna? Was that 17? Was that 18? You didn't have that guy that could do that. And even to a certain extent, Marcell Ozuna, we all know the step back in his career that he took once he came to St. Louis from Miami. John Mozeliak went out and he acquired Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, and what were deemed at the time as 2 massive win trades. Massive win trades. You trade Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver for Goldschmidt, and I don't even remember Austin Gomber was the notable, I think, in a couple of minor league pieces. I think John Torres was in there, as well as the Rockies eating a big chunk of that trade. It's not specifically the Nolan Arenado specifically, because you always knew that there was a risk that in the later part of his career, he was going to have that. He was going to dip off at some point. He wasn't going to be, was he still going to be in his prime at age 33? That was always a question, right? When you look back on those few years together, just feels like there could have been so much more there with that duo at the opposite corners, at the corners of the infield. Could have been so much more. And the Cardinals, they had their chances, and they weren't able to do anything with it. Both of those two did not perform in the playoffs in their limited time, but it was also like 3 or 4 games. So that happens all the time. But at the end of the day, they're getting paid the big bucks to step up in the big moments, and they weren't able to do that. So disappointing for sure when I look back on this time for Nolan Arenado. Glad that we were able to have moments of him as a Cardinal. We don't know for sure he's getting traded, so I don't want to act as if it's a guarantee. But, he definitely brought some oohs and ahs moments, some highlight moments. But definitely disappointing overall when I look at this tenure for Nolan Arenado and what could have been when you look at how good he was for those first couple of seasons.
He was very good, and he chose St. Louis. He told the Rockies, I want out of here. I want to go to an organization that's competitive, that's going to compete for championships, that has a solid core built around it. And at the time, Mike Shildt was getting all the toys there as the manager. You mentioned Ozuna, you mentioned Goldschmidt, and how I will remember Arenado is that 2022 campaign. It was very serendipitous. It felt like the stars were aligning in the right way, partially because of the tear that Pujols went on, post All-Star break and that home run derby with Juan Soto. And they're all kind of like storybook fairy tale moments that you would see in like The Natural, for example. Rest in peace to Robert Redford, who passed away today. There were a lot of storybook, intense emotional moments. And for Cardinal fans and St. Louis natives who had grown up with the team and were familiar with the lore from the past 20 years and dating back to the Jocketty days and the La Russa days, seeing Albert come back and chase 700, it was one of those. It brought some swagger, and it brought some old-timey feel back to the park. It was also Danny Max last season behind the mic as well. Like you look back on that, and it really was just kind of the epilogue that was written. You had a first-year manager, and Ollie Marmol wins more than 90 games. And those two cornerstone pieces, Arenado and Goldschmidt, had career years. They brought people out to the ballpark. And so maybe I'm kinder just looking at things in the rear view. Certainly, this season has not gone the way it has, and the way that people have wanted. And uh, Goldie is gone, and Arenado is past his prime. That's the obvious. However, you got to tip your cap to someone who nerded out about baseball, who was an intense grinder, who chose to come to St. Louis and gave 110% of his body, like just literally put his body on the line. So I hope that inspired some people in the system. I hope that he helped equip others to be leaders, future leaders on the team. And yeah, I wish him the best. If he comes back next year, then I'll just look like an idiot like this. And maybe 2022, I just didn't take enough Zoloft. But I thought, that's how I'm going to remember Nolan Arenado. Final thoughts as we wrap up Cards Central Postgame 3-0 win over the Reds.
Arenado, Goldie, and O'Neill in 2022, very comparable to some of the seasons that we saw from Pujols, Roland, and Edmonds. It was the first time that we had seen 3 Cardinals hit 30 home runs. That was a tear. Those 3 in that lineup. Dylan Carlson was had a lot of promise at that point. was was contributing a lot as well. It's sad to look back on that for sure. But think you summed it up perfectly as far as Nolan Arenado, the kind of player that he is, the talent that he brought here, and the excitement as well. He's one of those guys that fans come to the ballpark to watch. And fans most certainly back then were coming to the ballpark to watch Nolan Arenado. So, if this is the final homestand for Nolan Arenado, then I tip my cap to him. We'll see if it was enough to be a Cardinal Hall of Famer or not. That would be an interesting conversation at some point to have. But good win from the Cards tonight. Encouraging stuff from Michael McGreevy, Thomas Saggese as well with the 107-mile-per-hour bomb. And let's see if they can go ahead and win their second last home series of the year tomorrow.
Rubber game tomorrow, 12:15. First pitch on FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. It is a rematch of Sunday, the last day in August, the 31st. Right-hander Brady Singer against right-hander Andre Pallante. Brady has faced the Cardinals numerous times this season, and on the 31st, through a quality start, got the win, 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. Andre Pallante given up 5 runs, 2 of them earned. A 2-run bomb to Austin Hayes, the former Baltimore Orioles All-Star. He's Ethan Hannaford. I am Luke Slabaugh. Be sure, if you're watching for the first time, I know a lot of you do, unsubscribed. We got daily Cardinals content here, thus the name Cards 365. The Randy Carricker Show. Sometimes it has, get this, Randy Carricker. Other times, there will be Joe Roderick. He works here. Brooke Grimsley is coming back from the inactive list. And then who else we got? Matthew Rocchio. He does that.
Rocchio, Brennan Schaefer, Mike Claiborne, all kinds of names.
Bernie Miklasz also has a show on this channel with the Flamin' Hot Takes. He is right 100% of the time. And I am right just a little less than that. All the takes on Cardinals Central Postgame have been fire. All right, Ethan, this was great. Thanks for watching STL Sports Central Cardinals Postgame. We're always presented by DraftKings because the crown is
yours.